sun were burning daylight.
Howdy there. I'm Matt McKinley, and we're burning daylight.
In the saddle till the job's done right.
Welcome to Burning Daylight, the only podcast for the working cowboy. Well, howdy there, daylight burners. This is going to be a pretty good episode. I have a feeling. And I'll tell you what. One of the things that kind of got me thinking is about this pipe that can be used for tobacco and such, and it's got a little coil surrounded by glycerin that you can freeze and whatnot, and it chills and what. But also, it has a tendency to build up tar and shit and resin when you use it a bunch. And it's kind of like a radiator, you know, like if you don't take care of your shit and make sure it's clean, it's really tough to make that shit work. And it's kind of how I feel about America right now. Like there's if you look at a radiator, there's a lot of little tubes and fans and shit that, like, you don't really think about it but as a whole, it kind of just keeps things cool, because America's pretty fucking cool. But like the more one of those fins gets bent over, or if you get a little kink in the hose, you get a leak here and there, and then your engine overheats, and or your refrigerator doesn't work, or it doesn't freeze all the way. Instead, your freezer's only running at 33 degrees, or your refrigerator's only cooling down to 56 degrees, and you're just like, well, I don't like room temperature ham. It's and it kind of feels like how like America's internal cooling system is kind of got off whack. But anyway, Joe Drinkwalter's back with me, and I feel like we got a good conversation going for tonight. And Joe's a hippie and a cowboy and a rancher and an American by God. And I used to would punch somebody if they called me a hippie, but I'm almost like I'm kind of a hippie nowadays, and I'm not a rancher, but I'm a cowboy and an American by God. And I feel like we're way too young to be bitching like a bunch of boomers about how America's lost its way, but here we are. And at the same point, like, I'm also pissed off at the boomers who are bitching about America losing its way, because, like, you fuckers got us here.
No shit.
And by God, we probably didn't do ourselves any good by getting us into this point, because I've done some stupid shit. But at the same time, I'm just like, man, it feels like the America I knew is just like it's still kind of there, but it's hanging on by a thread. It just things are fucking weird at the moment.
I think it's been an ongoing kind of thing, though, I mean, I think 4 generations in, we are into this, and like my parents were old when they had me, and I'm old, and my grandparents were old. And so, I mean, this is, I think I'm going to lead it to like, it started in like the 1930s, and it's just kind of been just going faster and faster. It's like, it's this idea that people are just chasing money than like what they need.
Yeah. Well, that's, it's funny is like, because if we're talking about chasing money, you can go back to like really to the age of like the industrial age. so like 1830s, 1840s. Like and it rings a bell with me because I've been researching the meatpacking district and or meatpacking industry with Chicago, and I had that professor on Dominic Siga, and this is his book on Chicago, that I haven't finished yet, but it's it just like it gets me thinking because like America was just pretty much rural. Even the cities were pretty rural until locomotives and like steam engines and shit. Like once once the assembly line came into play, like I don't know, just like the farther urban America got away from rural America, and then once then you got the train, and when you were able to bring Texas Longhorn beef to a steakhouse in New York City, that all within a week, like that's like that really transformed some shit, and in the grand scheme of things, it's only been about 150 years, but well, I guess in America's time frame, it's been about 100, 150, 180 years or so. But in the grand scheme of things, it's nothing. Like there was.
What year was that they finished the made the transcontinental? So they connected California from across. What was that, like 1870s? Or is that 1880s?
I think that was 1868, if I remember right. I'm looking it up right now.
Oh, okay.
Golden Spike. That was.
Oh yeah, yep.
But it was let's see, 1816. That's not it. It was such a rapid advance in technology. That was the craziest part about it, because I mean, it used to take somebody to go from Boston to San Francisco. That took like almost a year. And then it took 8 weeks to go from Boston to London. And before that, like they thought you would just like drop off the edge of the world.
Yeah.
And like it was for hundreds of years, it was really slow going. And all of a sudden you could go from Boston to San Francisco in a week. And you're just like, holy shit. And now you can do that in a day. And that's only been like that like the steam locomotive really fucking changed the course of the world.
Yeah. I mean, it just really opened up the whole country, and then they're able to, settle it, take it over.
1869. So May 10th, 1869 is when they connected. They drove the Golden Spike, and that connected the Union Pacific to the Central Pacific. And yeah, and that was, it's funny how it was like the advent of the real cowboy era, but it was also like at the same time it was the downfall, because like once the railroad was there, you had those great big cattle drives every year. And then the farther the train moved west, the shorter those cattle drives got, and then they invented barbed wire, and then just like
Yeah.
Now we only got to drive maybe a week to get our cattle to a railhead, where it used to take 6-8 weeks, and you might lose 20% of your herd.
Do you think all the weight that them cattle would be losing as they're moving them? You know,
Oh
I mean,
shit,
you
man.
can fats, but I guess it's all grass fat anyways. So you know what the
Oh man. What it's funny is it's like it's really how like how stark the difference is. So we had a guy bring in as a little longhorn steer, uh like pretty nice rack on him. I mean he's like he'd be a good one to keep. Um but he'd been in the yard for a little over 30 days and hasn't gained any weight.
Oh yeah, but it's Longhorn.
Yeah, I know. And so like my boss was like, "Well, let's at least worm him so like we can say that we did something." And I was like, he's a longhorn. That's why he's not losing. Or that's why he's not gaining any weight. He's just a longhorn."
Yeah.
Um
Well, how
but
old
like
is it? You think like a 2 or 3 year old?
yeah, something like that. Like he's got a good rack on him. So he's he's at least a 3-year-old, I think, but
Well, so is it just somebody's pet they got tired of feeding, or
I'm not sure exactly how it all worked out, but I mean it's just a longhorn, and but like those things just don't put on weight, but they also don't lose weight either. Like once they get their
yeah,
size, they just like they maintain, and that's why they liked him for those long trail drives, because they just they may not get fat, but they never lose any weight. And then it was known, like they always called it the Texas beef because it was stringy and tough because it was all longhorn
yep,
until the railroad kept moving west, and then they started importing Herefords and Shorthorns and all the meat breeds, and then the western beef got to be where like it was, I mean, kind of like it is today. I mean, it's as good as it gets, but until the railroad was able to bring out those those higher quality meat breeds, and because you didn't have to drive them as far to the railhead, they were able to get better beef back east. And if there wasn't a market back east, there wouldn't have been a market at all. You know, you'd have kept a couple head for your uh own consumption, but that's about it. But turns out everybody likes beef, and that's why it grew into such the industry that it is.
well, have you ever looked into them passenger pigeons? I think it's a passenger pigeon that they used to have a shit ton of in the United States, like back in, I don't know, 1800s. Because
That's
allegedly,
like the homing pigeon type deal.
I don't know if they're the homing pigeon. They were like a different breed, like a big dove or something. I'm not sure, but the last one died like the day that we went into the First World War. It died in some zoo, um, but it got shadowed because we're going into the First World War. Uh,
Uh-huh.
anyways, but that I think beef wasn't even really that big of a deal. I mean, beef's how we were able to live out in the West, because you can't really grow crops. So it's like you just keep your herd, and then you can take a critter, once
Yeah.
your meat supplies get lower, whatever. But the big meat packing places, like even for, I believe, the first war or the Civil War, that was what they fed all the troops, was these passenger pigeons. And because they just have the game hunters go out, and then they just shoot them, and just kill shit tons of them and ship them back.
Yeah.
And then it was once, those were extinguished because, they're free. Nobody had to pay for their feed bill or whatever. So more economic until, it's
Well,
gone.
it's funny if you watch and I haven't looked back into like anywhere besides the US, but like the Bristol beef market, um like it was already established, but they're by Boston, but it really came into prominence during the Revolutionary War because they had a way to salt pork and beef, and they had a big contract with the the revolutionary government to feed the revolutionary or the Continental Army. And then Chicago became such a big hub because of the waterways and then eventually the railheads. So they're I mean they're a big transit point.
Yep.
But they're also right there, and particularly how they used to grow hogs in the Midwest where they'd grow corn, but they didn't really harvest much of the corn. I mean, like they'd take whatever the corn was left, and I guess make it. They'd either grind it into flour or make moonshine out of it,
So
or
what
whiskey.
they'd run the hogs on their cornfields?
Yeah, so whatever they harvested, then they just run the hogs in behind it,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
and then they'd graze their cattle on the stalks and stuff. Um, but there was also a lot of, I guess, bluegrass was, where's that book?
That fescue?
No, so it was this book, Early to Bed, Early to Rise, and then, it was 20 years. I think it was Early to Bed and Early to Rise. It's two books, but another one's called 20 Years in Hell with the Beef Trust by Roger R. Scheel, and he was based out of like in Indianapolis, but he did a lot of business with and against like the big meat packers in the 1860s and 1870s. But in that book he talks about how bluegrass was actually native to Indiana
Huh.
and not Kentucky. But it was in Indiana and like Illinois and kind of I guess above the Ohio River. But
Interesting.
during Jackson's campaign down to New Orleans during the War of 1812, somehow the grass got transplanted up above the Ohio River, and they so like he was a big proponent of expanding grasslands, and then like I don't know, he was interesting guy. Anyways, this book is dry as fuck. It's so hard to read, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of good stuff in there, but it's so hard to read, you know.
Well, what does he mean by a beef trust? Is that I mean, he was just running a packing plant, or what is a beef trust?
Oh, all
Giant
right, so
ranch?
no, actually there was an actual beef trust. And so it was the big three, I guess four packers of the day. So it was Swift and Company, Armour and Company, and Morris and Company. And then there was Cudahy was also in that, and they were an offshoot of I think Morris and Company. I can't remember which one they were associated with. But they literally like came together and made another like a they built a trust, and it was called like the US Beef Trust or something like that. But it was like the biggest corporations running the beef packing industry combined together so they could literally uh just
Control the market?
yeah, exactly. They could wipe out any competition because they had, at the time they had 80% of the market, but with them coming together as one company, then they could literally combined forces to cut out anybody else. And
Huh.
it was like a Death Star type approach, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Just
Yeah.
complete monopoly. Yep.
Yeah. And so, but the crazy thing is, and it was the same way with like the oil companies and the steel companies. Like after they broke them up, then they just became. It was still the same people, but a bunch of different companies. You know, so it was instead of U.S. Steel being one or Standard Oil being one company, it was like 34 different Standard Oil with the same people that were there in the first place.
Yeah. Huh.
It was, I don't know, it's wild when you go back through that like that antitrust era. I don't know, it kind of makes you think, cuz like when you look at you hear some of the stories of like the coal miners and like the meat packing workers and the steel mill workers in those early days when they're talking about the robber barons. Like, man, it
Terrible.
was pretty tough. Pretty fucking tough. And when they would bring in the Pinkertons with a fucking Gatling gun to break up a strike, you're just like, I, that doesn't seem very free market to me. You know, it seems like a very brutal use of force there. And
Yep.
but also like as the unions got established here in the States, you're like, oh man, you guys went communist pretty fucking quick, didn't you? You know,
Yep.
like you guys went real socialist real quick, and like I'm all for the average guy working and you know, bargaining to get their fair share, but also like, man, you guys went real commie and real political, you know,
Right.
like real fast.
Yeah. It's hard to make everything work when you gotta pay for, a shit potload of money. But, I guess they just gouge everybody else.
Yeah. So you grew up in Nebraska, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So how far are you from Omaha?
Well, when I went to high school, I was like an hour away from Omaha. Like our
Okay.
place is shitting 6 hours away from Omaha.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so Omaha, I was reading up on the meatpacking industry here the other day,
Yep.
and Omaha was at one point they were like really trying to make their mark to like they were gonna give Chicago a run for their money, but they didn't. It wasn't ever gonna happen. But they I mean they did give it a hell of a go, and
Yeah.
and Omaha it still is a pretty big um you know, as far as west of the Mississippi, I mean that's a pretty big river hub. You know,
Yeah.
there's meat packing plants. There used to be a huge stockyards there.
Yeah. Those
Um,
stockyards were huge.
yeah, and the thing about Chicago is, or like that kind of distinguished them from Chicago is that they depended on the through traffic. Like they had packing plants there, and they kept working to build those up, but they made their money on coming from Montana to Chicago. You know, like
Oh.
they were kind of like a thoroughfare. Um, but also like that's that was one of the first cities west of the Mississippi that had a large minority of black folks too, because they all came up from the South after the Civil War and worked in the packing plants. And it's kind of like Kansas City and Omaha, or they're kind of like, they're not really Midwestern. I mean, they're kind of Midwestern, but not really Midwestern, and they're not really Western, but they're kind of Western, you know.
Right.
It's they're kind of on the brink
Right.
there, and yeah, and so like you know, Nebraska kind of has a little bit of a union um background because of Omaha and because of that meat packing plant there, or you know, the meat packing industry there on the Ohio River or the Missouri River.
Yep.
And it's just kind of funny when it's they're and those the meat packing type workers are very similar to the ranchers and the cowboys of the West, but also at the same time they're completely different. Like they're very much very manly, like men's men. But they also like completely different point of
Well,
view, you know?
they were the city ones, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you know, or the urban, if you
Mhm.
will. Yeah. So,
But also but there's still like a manliness about it, you know, like
oh yeah, cutting up meat, killing animals.
yeah, or even being like just a dock or like a longshoreman. That's fucking hard work, man. You know, like
Oh yeah.
you're unloading ships all day. Like
Oh yeah. Yeah,
and
them the ship guys.
it's but it's like industrialization like kind of killed a lot of the manhood about it, you know, just like as stuff got more mechanized,
Right.
like the less burly you had to be about it, and yeah, I don't know, it's weird, like it's like technology has been a gift and a curse all at the same time.
You ever seen that movie Wall-E? You know, that
Uh-huh.
Disney cartoon? I feel like we're all turning
Yeah, it's
into
a
that.
pretty profound movie when you think
Yeah.
back on it, ain't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of they kind of nailed that one, but it's like I mean everything, you know, there's not really that many jobs out there where you're lifting heavy stuff. I mean, if it gets very heavy, they give you a crane or something, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, they're still
Yeah.
out there, but not a whole hell of a lot.
No, it's wild. So you're like you're just kind of you're doing small, like kind of small time farm and ranching there in the Sandhills now. Like
Yeah.
what's your business model look like?
Well, I like running yearlings. I want to retain that, you know, retain that animal as long as possible. Uh, you know, I mean, if I could keep ownership of them till they're on the hook, that would be awesome. But
Yeah.
I mean, we're just like a little cow calf operation. But we run falls, so like I'm calving right now. Uh,
Mm.
and we got rid of our calves, you know, soon to be yearlings, like a week before we started calving, which was sweet because usually we're getting rid of them like this time right now, and you know it's in the heat of the calving, so that always sucked. But yeah, basically just cow calf, you know, range, just have them on grass as much as possible and try and put as little feed into them as possible, you know, but still grow
Yeah.
them. It's
Yeah.
kind of my mentality. You get back east though, and a lot of them guys they got farm ground and stuff, so it's like they don't care about putting feed into them. Like they might be fit, you know, uh, feeding them silage all winter and stuff like that. And I mean, you know, if you can do that, badass. I mean, nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. Now it's kind of crazy just just trying to figure out like where it's all gonna go. Um these bigger, it seems like the bigger you get, the more like the faster you get bigger too. Like
Yeah,
once like what
yeah,
it seems like once you hit a certain level of acres, like you have to keep getting bigger, and so but then you have enough capital behind you to keep, but then you're owned by somebody else. Like you never really
Right.
own anything.
Right.
But then you have also at the same time you have to own everything to make it work. And but at the same time, yeah, just like you're run ragged, and you hire the cheapest people you can. You try to dumb everything down as far as you can. And you know, soil and grass be damned, just like make a profit this year.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people. So last year was the driest summer we'd had. It was drier
Mhm.
than 2012. Uh
Which
and
was drier than the Dust Bowl.
yeah, which I think that actually there might be in 2002 there might have been a horrible drought back then too. So I kind of wonder if it doesn't hit in twos. Anyways,
Mhm.
it was so dry, and I mean, driving around these hills and stuff, like just driving on little oil roads or gravel roads or whatever, and gawking around, looking at people's pastures, and I mean, you can tell the people. I feel like you can tell the people that are making bank payments on their
Mhm.
ground, because it's like some of them fucking hills looked really rough. Like had
Mhm.
some bare spots, and like we didn't start getting any rain. I thought it was gonna be we're gonna have a second summer of it, up until like May, and it was just because I was picking out cows to sell and stuff, because I was like we got to get rid of cows, but everybody was in the same boat. But I mean that's the number one thing. It's like it takes money to make money, and if you're trying to like make payments to the bank and shit, that eats up all your profit, like them interest
Yep.
rates, especially the
Yeah.
interest rates right now. Crazy.
Oh, yeah, the insurance rates, they're right now they're just going to keep going up because the Fed said they're moving up, uh or they're probably going to move up the next time they meet. And yeah, it's it's not that surprising because they've needed to for a long time. Um,
Right.
because if they don't, then we're gonna end up in a Weimar Republic type deal where we're gonna have to, instead of a wagon load of Deutschmarks, we're gonna have to have a dump truck load of dollars to buy a loaf of bread.
Yeah. I don't know.
Like
I
we're
think the
oh, go
key
ahead.
thing is just buying the cheapest. I guess, and this is the rancher in me, but it's just buying the cheapest uh thing you can buy. Like uh with the amount of money, like trying to make
Yeah,
anything that'll work. And because I mean once you hit that point when it's like we're fucked and like money isn't worth shit, it's like it's just whatever you actually have. Which
yeah,
I've been watching I used to sell cars. Like I used to just fix cars up and sell them for like, make $200 off the fucker or whatever. Back before I
mm-hmm.
moved back up here, that was one of my side gigs or whatever. So I always kind of watch the used car market, and like right where I used to get my cars at sometimes, uh, it went crazy when the whole pandemic thing happened and everybody was sitting at home. Like the auctions used to have like 300 people watching, then they'd have like 3,000 people watching. So it's like, and shit was going for
Yeah,
ridiculous money. Well, anyways, middle of this summer, I don't even know when it was. Like because I was watching it, and then all of a sudden I just started seeing things go down. It's like, and they're just getting cheaper and cheaper.
yeah.
So I don't know. I think we're gonna see it where used cars are they're about normal. I think gonna be anyway soon.
Yeah, it's getting that way. I'm gonna try to sell a vehicle or two before that happens. But
Oh fuck, I should. Yeah, I'd say if you're gonna sell it, last week was the week to do it.
yeah, Right. Like,
Definitely.
yeah. No, it's kind of crazy. And then also you it's kind of funny because the last time Hollywood was out of work was during COVID, but they were still kind of getting paid for all their shit. They were just
Yeah.
bored out of their mind. But now they're on strike and they're not getting paid. So
Oh,
like, yeah, so, like they're selling shit too.
yeah.
They're doing the same amount of cringy bullshit that they did during the COVID,
Right.
but now they're not like there's no government check coming in either. So like they gotta sell shit.
Well, I guess what are they selling? I haven't heard nothing about any of this kind of stuff.
I don't know either, but I don't. This is just me.
All the
I'm just saying, like,
speculation. Yeah.
yeah, because
Oh,
the last time there was like a big sell off of, or like when the like the used car prices got really high. It
yeah.
was during COVID, and all like Hollywood was out of work, but people were watching their shit all the time because there was nothing else to do. So royalties were through the roof.
Yeah.
Now they're out of work, but everybody else is back at work, and so they're not sitting at home watching all their bullshit, and so it's like I don't know. It just maybe there's a correlation. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being little too tinfoily, but
I mean, there is something about Hollywood. I mean, I think that Hollywood is what they have redacted from MK Ultra, how to really brainwash people, get them thinking a
that
certain.
MK Ultra stuff is fucking wild, ain't it?
Uh, yeah. I mean, man, I get pretty deep on that one. Because like I love the Grateful Dead. Um,
Yeah.
and like it's like, and I've heard the conspiracy theory actually from another deadhead, how they thought that Jerry Garcia just was kept on, he kept going because if he stopped going, playing, then the feds were gonna knock down and kick in the doors all of his different buddies and stuff. So, but I
Huh.
mean, I kind of got that speculation with like Jim Morrison and Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix. It's like there's this video cousin showed me, um, where it was like this movie thing that they were doing on Jimi Hendrix, and they just
Mhm.
kept that guy dosed up on acid all the time. Like every member of his crew would like every day just put like a dose in like whatever his drink, his food. Uh, like every single member of it. Anyways, they made this movie, and the Jimi Hendrix was talking about when he was like in third grade, the teacher wouldn't let him talk or sit around any of the other students. It was like he was in his own little world. But his dad was in the military, and it's like, was he just part of this like experiment with like the project paperclip people or whatever,
Yeah.
how he and they made this rock star because it was the same deal with Janis Joplin and the same deal with Jim Morrison. It's like, were they grooming these people from birth, and then they're like, okay, this is a story you tell them, you just started picking up the guitar when you were however old or whatever, and it's like they realized
Okay.
that through pop culture such as music and stuff, because people idolize anything and everyone, then that's the way to really start trying to control them and stuff, because it's kind of like that book, that Chaos book about Charles Manson,
Yeah.
because like I think they're talking like they'd given them the LSD, like the feds or the CIA or whatever, the fucking big people in charge they're speculating gave Charles Manson the LSD that he gave out to all these other people. But I mean, with the Grateful Dead, it's Ken Kesey, the guy, because he was in the military, and he says that he stole like 1,000 doses of LSD and then gave it to the Grateful Dead, and then they had the acid test like every Saturday night out in Haight Ashbury or wherever it's at. And anyways, but the idea, the other, cynical idea is they were just part of a test to see what happens, and realizing that they can control people this way. I kind of feel like, I'm going to get into the little hippie side of it, rocks in my pockets and crystals and all that bullshit. But like, I really have a feeling like they don't like the LSD because it kind of opens up. They won't let anybody test it or anything like that, but they'll let like the illegal stuff go through.
Right. That's kind of the, yeah.
And the illegal stuff is not good. Like, it's bootleg shit that somebody made in their basement. And it's like, it's just not as good. And that's what you read about, like, in the books of like before they illegalized it and after they illegalized it, that nobody even wanted that stuff that that somebody made, Stanley Aswalsley or Bear or whatever, that dude that made it for the Grateful Dead. Anyway,
well, it's kind of the same. Like, so go back to like Breaking Bad, when he makes the the blue methamphetamine, and it's supposed to be the purest stuff. And I know that's allegedly a fictional account, which I think there's a lot of truth to it, especially when you go back to Imperial Japan and Nazi Germany, and that's what they were giving their troops, was like straight up crystal meth. And like that's how the Blitzkrieg worked so good, and that's how all these like these kamikaze pilot, and not even the ones that crashed the plane, like the guys that planned all these kamikaze attacks that were so effective. It's like, those dudes were fucking tweaking out of their mind, but they didn't have all the bad shit. They just had the straight fucking crystal meth.
Right. Yeah. Well, okay, so wasn't that what the Germans did? How the Germans were even able to like halfway stand up against Russia in the middle of that fucking winter?
Yeah.
Like, because they got caught out there in the winter and were just fucking tweaked out and just kept going.
Yep. Well, and they had they had a bunch of slave labor running their military industrial complex. So, and
Russia or Germany?
Germany. I mean, that's okay. I mean, they use Jews and Slavs and Poles and gays.
Oh yeah.
And retard. They like the retards that can work, Yeah.
Oh like they're super strong.
Yeah, that's who they wanted. But and so you were talking about Operation Paperclip. Dude, the guys that ran IG Farben, which was the company that held the patent on Zyklon B, which was used to exterminate the Jews. A bunch of those executives and scientists, they got moved over. Well, they either got moved to the Soviet Union or we brought them over here, and there was a total like 1,600 Nazi scientists and engineers and generals and who knows what the fuck else that we took over. Like, we stole them.
It's kind of
so that this. Go ahead.
It's kind of funny because, like, you thinking of all those NASA guys, and they always had that big old scar on their jaw. Anyway, everybody there in Europe knew that those were old Nazis because they're the only ones who had those fucking scars. on the side of their face.
It was a dueling scar with swords. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and then they'd I heard they'd pack it with horsehair or hay or something just to make that thing fester up and get huge because they thought it looked cool.
Yeah. Yeah, because it was like the mark of nobility or whatever. It was.
Well, yeah, I guess it's kind of like
it's funny how close. Yeah, it's funny how close we are to. So, like, if you take 30 years before World War II, that'd have been World War One, and you go 30 years before that, and that's when Germany got unified as a country.
Okay.
It was because before that it was a bunch of different, kind of states, but then it became like a nation state. World War One happened, and there was a whole bunch of empires, coming together at that. But then after World War One, Germany lost a whole bunch of its territory. But then, so that was they can call Hitler imperialist, but really he was just trying to regain what Germany had already kind of captured. So, Austria, they had a large German speaking population there. He was trying to reclaim that. Not saying that Hitler was a good dude, but if you take the whole Jewish part of it out of there, and you're like, hey, it kind of makes sense. Danzig was disputed territory between Poland and Germany. Alsace-Lorraine, that was disputed territory between France and Germany. It was all
oh, okay.
Yeah. But
I guess I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I mean, it's you're all when they're going into the turn of the 20th century, it's all a bunch of monarchies still trying to hold on to what they've gathered, and they're turning a monarch, or a bunch of, I don't know how, it's kind of like how the Roman Empire became the Papal States, and then became Italy with the Vatican, right? Just Vatican being contained to inside Rome, essentially.
Yeah.
Whereas Germany became, the Gauls and the Vandals and whatever, and then it became a bunch of different tribes, and then they essentially consolidated into to becoming the First Reich, which was, I think that's when they fought Napoleon, if I remember right. Second Reich was when they was World War One, and then Third Reich was Hitler. And I think at the end of the day, it's probably a good thing if if Germany doesn't become a really strong unified nation.
Yeah,
seems like they can't be trusted. It seems like,
Yeah. Well, that's kind of like Japan. Like Japan, they're just, they like to fight over in Japan, but they have to keep them so contained, and because I guess there's been in the Japanese mentality where it's they just are go-getters, and then if it's a fight, they are going to really get it. I mean, that's why they had to use the bombs on them, because they weren't going to stop. And then even they didn't even stop. There were guys on them fucking islands out in the Pacific Ocean that were fighting up until 90s, 1990s or something. Shit like that.
Yeah, I forget. Yeah, there was one guy that was terrorizing a whole island, and it wasn't a very big island, but still he was terrorizing it, and he was just one Japanese dude that, his commanding officer had to come back 30 or 40 years later and tell him that the war was indeed over, and he could leave now.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
wild.
sure. Yeah. It is pretty crazy.
What'd you think of the Prigozhin? I thought that was kind of classic Russia. He was like, I'll get you. It's okay. It's okay. We'll smooth things over. We'll make sure you smooth things up, or take care of loose ends where as far as you're concerned, and then we'll just boom, we'll blow you out of the air because I'm fucking Vladimir Putin, the leader of Russia.
Yeah, I don't know. Those guys are all just a bunch of gangsters, I mean, they're tough over there in Russia, so it's like, them fuckers like to fight. And I mean, you're starting to fight with the top guy. Like, yeah, I don't know. I'd probably would have, if I was that guy, and you ain't gonna fucking take that fight. You kind of got to leave fucking territory.
I would have. So. The guy had the capability to make it to a NATO country. I would have defected right then because
right. Yeah, if you're gonna bitch out on that kind of fight, you better get the fuck out of there.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're gonna you take a swing at the king, you best not miss.
Well, I'm surprised you lasted as long as he did, honestly. I mean, because wasn't that like a year ago that bullshit?
No, it was only about well, I guess technically, yeah, because he's been bitching about the Russian military commanders for a while. And,
yeah.
Yeah, it made me think for a little while. I was like, maybe this guy is kind of like playing an inside game for Putin and showing all who's a weak link, and I think maybe he did that too. But
yeah,
at the same time, like, man, you can't shoot down Russian military helicopters and expect to come out alive.
Well, how long was it that he lived for after shooting down that military helicopter?
It's only been a couple months.
I mean, I'm really surprised it was more than 7 days, but
right. Well, see, that's what I'm thinking is that dude had his fingers in a whole bunch of shit, and particularly in Africa, and so I think he went down there to tie up loose ends, and then like once his usefulness was used up, shoot him out of the air.
Yeah.
And also I think maybe Putin's a little more charismatic than we give him credit for, because if I was that Prigozhin guy, I would have never went back to Russia. Not a fucking chance I would have went back to Russia.
Right.
And he went back like it was all cool. And you're like, well, obviously that was a bad idea. It didn't work out well for you.
Yeah. Well, at least he killed him in Russia. I would have figured Putin would have just like had him X'd, like, from the get-go. So, I mean, maybe he's not as fucking haywire as they claim on the TV. They say he's fucking paranoid as shit, though. I don't know. I don't know the guy, so I can't.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't be surprised one way or the other. Like, between those two countries, we've been living under fucking just nonstop propaganda for 80 years now. So who the fuck knows? Who the fuck knows?
Well, I kind of like that thing Tucker Carlson said, how he was talking to somebody who was like allegedly like a CIA or FBI informant or something to Tucker, and he said, he's like, well, did they kill JFK? He's like, yeah, they killed JFK. Like, everything you think is fake. And and it's like even talking about, them putting that beef trust together and shit. It's like, it's always, because it's like, when did the corporations really come in and just take over everything? And it's like, it's just been this ongoing struggle, you know. I always kind of thought it was like after Roosevelt, because he's the one that really gave a lot of them corporations and shit, Teddy, you know, that gave them the power, a lot more power.
Well, and that's funny is because he was known as the trust buster, you know, like he was like the original trust buster, and it's funny is and I don't know, it seems like to me like when it comes to when it comes to who to trust, I don't know, but the bigger the entity, the less I trust it. You know, and like that's where
for sure.
Because like I'm in lockstep with these left wingers when they say these corporations are evil. I'm like, yeah, you're 100% right. But then like we need they're like, we need to get the government involved to stop them. And it's like, oh, you know what's a bigger corporation than the biggest corporation? The U.S. federal government, you know? So I don't trust them either. But at that point, like, I don't even know how you tackle that problem, you know?
Yeah, I feel like you need some guy that wants like little government, little business. Like, that's what we need. You know, and some guy
did you listen to that episode I did the other day with John Clark from Vermont?
No, I didn't. I did not listen to that
one. You'd like him. But we were talking about how it's funny how anybody who opposes like the kind of the globalist narrative nowadays is considered a fascist or labeled a fascist.
Right.
But when you look at the governments of the world post World War II, every one of them motherfuckers went fascist. Every single one of them motherfuckers. Like they laid off on the Jew slaughter. Like, you know, they're like, hey, maybe leave the Jews out of it, but like let's keep big government and big corporations in line. Like, and that's what cracks me up about the like the conservatives. They're like the Chinese Communist Party. It's like, dude, even China's not communist anymore. You know, China is fascist as fuck, just the same as the U.S. is. Like they realize that market is a powerful thing, but they also like we got to control that market, otherwise people have too much freedom, you know.
Right. They can finance themselves. You know.
That's the thing about a market economy. Like a true market economy doesn't bode well for a centralized government, you know, because true freedom produces shit that the government doesn't want, because then they lose power.
Right. Well, that's like Hong Kong. Hong Kong was the only real capitalist area in the world up until 2019 when China annexed it. Yeah. And it's like, I had a buddy who
right about the time the pandemic hit. Yeah.
Yeah, they released that fucking bat flu, which is a funny thing because I'm pretty sure that bat flu was around about the fall of 2019 rather than when they had it.
And we helped pay for it. That's the thing that fucking gets me.
Of course. Why wouldn't you?
Right. And you're just like, motherfucker, man. Yeah. I don't want. If you would have asked me, if you would have polled the normal person and be like, hey, should we take this virus that is really deadly for bats and try to make it transmit to humans and see if it's as deadly? I would have said, no, why would you do that? That's a stupid idea. Don't do that. And then they did.
Wasn't it Rand Paul that pointed out the fact that fucking gain of functions was illegal before they did it? So they were doing illegal shit, but none of these motherfuckers are gonna get prosecuted.
Right. And then that's the crazy shit. So it was Obama that outlawed it.
Yeah.
And then Trump signed it back into law, kind of. Because Fauci was a sneaky little fucker.
Yeah.
And but yeah, ipso facto, long story short, me and you and everybody out there who's listening that pays US federal income tax, we funded the fucking virus that shut down our economy.
Yeah.
And I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with that. And these motherfuckers have been getting away with it forever.
Well, I'm a pretty firm believer. I mean, I tried this back when I was like 24, but I was like, I'm just going to quit fucking paying taxes. And I tried that for about a year and a half, and holy fuck.
Yeah,
everybody
come after
do
you.
it though. I don't know. It would fucking
see, and that's the one of the funniest things is so I lived in Kansas for quite a while, 6, 7, 8 years, something like that. And that's one of the most Republican states in the country, but my God, they are serious about their taxes. There was one year, first year I lived there, and it's been like plaguing me up until here just recently. But so I moved from Colorado to Kansas, and I worked for 6 months in Kansas for that first tax return. I filed and I did it through TurboTax or what the fuck ever.
Yeah.
And I filed my federal income taxes, and and they gave me the numbers for Kansas, and the state of Kansas owed me $35, but it was going to cost me $50 to process that deal. So I would have ended up owing whoever it was $15. And so, fuck it, you can keep it. I'm not.
Yeah.
6 years later, they charged me and garnished my wages for $6,000.
What?
When they did? Yeah, when they owed me $15.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. And then I ended up getting my wages garnished. Like 6 years later. When they owed me money. Like it's like, you motherfuckers. And so like and that's one of the most conservative states in the country, and you're like, I don't trust you conservatives either, you motherfuckers. Like, you guys all are just trying to get my money, and like that's all it is. Like, you guys are all trying to get my fucking money.
Yeah, that's all that it is. I mean, Nebraska is the worst. I mean, we have property taxes out the ass. I looked at ground down in Arkansas way back when, and I was like asking them what their taxes were. It was like fucking $300 on a section. It was like, what? Something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then, it's like fucking 25 for our tiny little place. It's like, holy shit.
No, it's fucking stupid, and I get the argument, like, a government's got to have some sort of taxes to stay afloat, but I'm also like,
roads aren't that nice.
Right. If you can't justify you taking taxes out of my check, maybe you shouldn't exist,
Right.
Like, if it takes this much money and you're doing this shitty of a job, maybe you don't deserve my money.
Yeah, I mean, anybody else we would have quit giving money to a long fucking time ago. It's like, well, you guys do really shitty work. It's like, you're fired. You're gonna get something else. Can't fire these fuckers. Like, can't even get them fuckers out of office. They gotta die in there. It's like Mitch McConnell. That was a good fucking tic tac made too. I like that one.
Let me pull that up because I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
I was pretty proud of myself on that one. I'm not gonna lie.
I'd say it's something to be proud of. But you know, fucking shadow banned on fucking Facebook. I mean, shit.
Yeah, everything's shadow banned on everything. It's fucking stupid.
Oh, how about Elon? Elon was gonna get the person. You know, Elon was the dude. He was gonna put free speech back onto Twitter, and well, they renamed it. He let all the bullshit out, and then he put fucking one of the people of what, the WHO or the World Economic Forum or some bullshit in charge of it, and now they're they're downplaying everything and shit.
Something like that. Know. Yeah, it was fucking stupid. That's all I know.
Yeah, it's all a fucking con. Everything's a fun.
That's not fucking con. Here we go. There we go.
What? Running for re-election in 2026.
Marijuana, LSD, psilocybin, DMT, they all change. We ask, love's the only thing that ever saved my life. Don't waste your mind on nursery rhymes, fairy tales, blood and wine. Turtles on the way down the line.
Oh, fuck.
I've been there for sure.
There was so many parts of that video that I did not try to. So like the filter that makes it look all trippy and shit, I didn't put that on purpose. And then like when it zoomed out, right? No, that was unintentional. I don't know how that happened, but it worked out fucking perfect. And then the original video.
Did you make that?
What's that?
The original video.
All right. So I made that video. Like I doctored it a little bit, but like the filter that makes it look all trippy, I did not mean to put that on there. Like that was an accident, but fuck it made it good.
Yeah, it did. It really tied it all together.
Yeah, and then like
make that at.
I'll go ahead. I was on it was just on Reels, I think.
On the old Facebook.
Yeah. So it was an Instagram deal, and so I just like I did a little bit of editing on it, and then I added the music, but it was and like how it zooms out right when it goes turtles all the way down. Like that was also unintentional. I was like, fuck, I couldn't have made this better if I would have tried. You know, like if I really was trying to lay it out, I couldn't have done it that good. It was accidental, but god damn it was funny.
Further rounds our souls must roam to and through that we all gone space and time.
What are my thoughts about what? Running for re-election in 2026.
Marijuana, LSD, psilocybin, DMT, they all change. We ask, love's the only thing that ever saved my
life. God damn it. That filter is so good.
It is, and it's kind of crazy how well, you know, music, like it'll just line up with stuff, you know, like unintentionally. I don't know. There's
it's
something weird
crazy.
about that.
It really is. I gotta go pee, but we should come back and we'll talk about this Oliver Anthony guy.
Oh yeah, you bet.
Cool. All right, I'm gonna take a leak, but hey, you want anybody to find you on social media? Are you good? Staying.
Oh yeah, man. Last time I was on, all kinds of cool people added me. So yeah,
shit, yeah.
Add me on the old TikTok and Facebook or Snapchat, whatever. But Joe Drinkwalter. So yeah.
Hell yeah. Joe's a good.
You bet.
Joe's good shit. I enjoyed talking to him. So anyway, we'll go find him and we're gonna come back and talk some more conspiracy shit on the flip side, but you got to sign up for Patreon to come listen to it. So patreon.com/Burnin Daylight. And yeah, go follow Joe and move your ass. We're burning daylight.
Your eyes up in the morning beneath the stars so bright. Pull your hat down, make sure your cinch is tight. Horses kinda snuffy, cold chill up your spine. It'll get your ass moving, son. We're burning daylight. Burning daylight. Burning daylight. In the saddle till the job's done right. Burning daylight. Well, life is just a gather, and you won't catch 'em all. But when you ride through the gate, make sure you sit up tall. I can see the horizon, it's looking pretty bright. Well, get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight. Burning daylight. Burning daylight. In the saddle till the job's done right.